Welcome to this edition of the B.Andrews radio show, coming to you from somewhere south of County Road O, from the town of Hancock in Washera County.
Yay!
Thank you very much. I am one of your co-hosts today. I am Eric of the B.Andrews Band, and on the other side of the room are our other cohorts, or should I say co-hosts, coming to you from deep within No, not going to say it. Coming to you from within our studio here in Hancock is our lovely co-host wearing her pajamas today. Emily, say hi, Emily.
Hey.
That's not hi. That was hey. All right.
Hey.
And she came to work comfortable today. She opened up a door and
Doesn't
walked
she
through
always?
it. Doing her prescribed duties from behind the computer is our engineer and producer, Kay. Say hi, Kay.
Hi.
So good to have you ladies with us today. Have you recovered from our last show with the gentleman in the room?
I don't think there's anything to recover from besides the giggles.
Ouch.
That's a compliment.
Oh, it was a compliment?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like one.
We didn't get scarred. We didn't get, offended. So there's nothing to recover from.
Oh,
Except maybe a giggle fit. Because there's
Could you imagine a giggle pit?
No.
It's just a bunch of dolls that giggle whenever you touch them and you throw them in the bottom. So every time you drop something in there, it just goes,
Okay.
No, that's not what I think of as a giggle. So.
Okay.
No.
So, by the way, milestone here today on the B.Andrews radio show. Actually, we crossed that milestone 2 weeks ago, but we've been so busy we didn't get an opportunity to accentuate the milestone. But today we will, and today we are accentuating Season 3 of the B.Andrews radio show. Yes, today will actually be episode 3 of Season 3. So we are 3 of 3.
3 of 3. 3 of 3 makes it sound like it's the end.
Oh.
What?
Okay. No, it's not that radical. No, today, episode 3 of Season 3. So it's...
Actually, it goes Season 3, Episode 3. In the format that we have it.
Technicalities.
Yes.
Technicalities.
Well, she is the technician.
That is true. That is true. When I prescribe the duties of being the technician, I guess.
When you prescribe the duties of the bowel workers.
No.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
When I prescribe
You're
the
the one
duties
sitting
of
on the
being
stool.
me.
So anyway, we are celebrating that. It's really been something to put together a podcast, and we've that within itself is one thing. Then to have the longevity of a podcast to be able to continue on for 3 years. However, we haven't finished the third year. We've only managed to start one.
Hence, Season 3, Episode
3. Yeah, right.
Well, being as we only hopped in, being in the middle of year 2.
Well, that was my next thing, and not only that, but the podcast needing to take a change of characters, if you will, and personalities.
I'm a
working
character?
it. Your character, your personality. That's
You're your own character.
That's what it's called.
I'm an OC.
You're a radio personality. That's what you're called. And so to do that and to overcome those are huge hurdles. And not only that, but we had to reconfigure the studio. We had to go through that when John left because of the work and the things that he is involved in. The big portion of the studio belonged to him, and he took that with him in order to continue on in his ministry. In fact, there still is one other thing that we need to replace that does need to go to him, and that is actually the computer system that we play our show and do the recording of our show on. So if there's anybody out there that would like to donate us $800 to $1,000 in order to replace the computer system,
Couple thousand would do.
We would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
And and actually about $1,200 or $1,400 because our renewal for subscriptions and
that's what I get the couple thousand in there for. 'Cause you get a better system than we have, and 2 monitors, and have a subscription to Speaker would greatly help.
Needs to be upgraded. So we've got some expenses coming up that could really use some help in doing. But in the meantime, if you don't have the ability to help, pray for us, God to help us, and hopefully you're enjoying this program. And once again, the whole point of this program is to be a listening outlet for people who like talk radio format, to be a listening outlet so that we can talk about lots of positive things. In fact, everything and anything except politics. Yeah, sorry, staying away from it.
Imagination.
We are
no politics zone
totally
here.
staying away from the politics because it is our belief that is one of the corrupting things going on right now. Is just invading and evading people, their minds. It's dominating the cultural landscape, and it's just it's all negative. And there's way more than that in order to talk about.
And whether it really is corruptive or not, it's just constantly there, and it's constantly bearing down on people, and people need escape from that.
Yep. Angering people, dividing families, ruining friendships.
There are actually marriages
that ending over politics.
That are ending over in politics. What?
I know,
support
a husband
that person?
and wife. Oh, I worked the voting booth up once for the presidential election. And there was several husbands and wives that came in going, I know how he's going to vote, so I've got to vote the other way.
Wow.
Just to cancel out a vote.
That's not right.
Well, I mean, I wish they wouldn't think about it, canceling out a vote. I mean, if they really think that the other candidate is who they wanted, hey, freedom in voting.
No, that's not the way they put it, though. They put it
right.
They put it in, I don't want who he wants, so it's anybody else.
Yeah, see, and that's not the point of voting. The point of voting is vote your conscience and who you want. And if they wanted the other person, I mean, that's
like we said. This is no politics zone.
This isn't politics. This is a person's attitude.
This is depressing. This is just really depressing.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to something that's even more depressing.
I was just going
to
say,
well,
that's
right. The whole irony of the show is we're talking about something that has to do with politics. And it's depressing, even though it's not actually politics.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
You won't know until later.
But something that's even more depressing that we're going to talk about is what Emmy is doing right now, coming up this weekend. 3 shows. Tell us all about your shows and what you're doing. And
why is that depressing?
Yeah, why is my show depressing?
Oh, my goodness.
Everybody thought, no, the last two performances we had, everybody thought it was a comedy. It's a drama.
You guys are doing something wrong.
I think it's the characterization. The script is from the 1950s, so really there's not a lot of direction for the characters.
Okay,
so
help everybody out. What's the title?
12 Angry Jurors. It's supposed to be a drama.
It's an adaptation from
12 Angry Men. No, the play was the original.
The
movie was from 1957. It's called 12 Angry Men.
Henry Fonda, sure. Okay.
So in the script there isn't a lot of direction for the characters, so the entire characterization process is all based on dialogue. And the attitude you can sort of pick up and read from the dialogue. So the person who plays number 2 is now an OCD sort of
you have to explain to everybody, why did you say number 2 and not a person's name?
Nobody mentions names anywhere in the play. Nowhere. Like, names are completely left out of it.
The only person who has a semblance of a name, he's just called Mr. Foreman. And that's it. All the rest are numbers.
That's because he's number 1.
Even in the script, everybody is referred to as Juror 1, Juror 2.
Actually, no. We're referred to as 1, 2, 8, 7, 6.
Oh, okay.
We're not even... Juror doesn't even come in.
All right. So, and when are your performances?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7:30 this coming weekend. And then Sunday at... Call, I think, is 1:30.
Okay. And so when you say this weekend, the weekend would be February 21st is Thursday, 22nd is Friday, 23rd is Saturday, and 24th is Sunday. And so you got 4 performances, bam, 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 bam. Mm-hmm. Okay, and what time does Thursday, Friday, and Saturday performances start?
7:30.
7:30, and Sunday you think is at 1:30. Where can they find information?
Call is when the actors are supposed to be there. Oh, so that means the performance is probably 2:30.
Okay,
but
where
I'd have
can
to
where
look
can
that
they
up.
find more information?
If you go to WRC Theater, the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater, .com, or even if you just Google the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater, you should be able to find their website. It is much easier to find now.
Okay.
And they will have, it's listed underneath 12 Angry Jurors. You can find it on their website, and they will list dates.
All right, and so you can find dates and times there, and this is the performance is over in Wisconsin Rapids, not here in Hancock. Right. So you're doing it over there. The theater, and being in the theater, taking you to and from rehearsals and things like that. Nice theater.
Yeah, I think it used to be a movie theater. That's why it's shaped the way it is, and it's not as far back like a regular theater, and why it's so spread out like a movie theater.
Well, it's shaped and done very, very well. Nice seats, comfortable lighting, very intimate theater. The stage comes right out, and I mean it's right there.
The best part about that is that you don't have to do heavy pancake makeup. Even he's like, we don't usually do makeup, just a little bit of foundation or maybe some eyeliner, and that's all you really need.
Yeah,
and
the lights.
But just because of the lights, and I'm thinking, yes, I don't need to go buy any expensive makeup. Yeah. I don't need to go, because I don't have any pancake.
I thought you had all that stuff.
I have regular makeup, but if they have like industrial lights, like the stage at Point does, I would have had to have bought pancake makeup because any regular makeup would have melted off of my face.
Well, and the seating at I'm trying to think of the name of the theater over there in Stevens Point. There's 3 times the amount of seating over there as there are.
That place is huge.
Yeah, compared to the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater. So if you're not doing anything Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, go check out 12 Angry Jurors. Emily is a part of that. Nice, intimate seating, good theater. By the way, do you ticket prices? How much are they?
It's $15 a person. It's better if you reserve your seat in advance. That way you can usually pick where you sit because they do assigned seating.
Okay, and can they do reserve seats off of that website?
Yes. You can do ticket buying and reserve seats right off of this website. Okay,
so there you go. Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater, WRC
Theater.
All right, so go check that out and see Emmy. And what would be really cool if there'd be 1 or 2 people, 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 people that would say, hey, I heard about this on the B.Andrews radio show, so I thought I'd come over and check it out. Be sure to do that. So that's what she's got going on this weekend. Now, today here on the B.Andrews radio show, we're going to pick up a subject matter that is somewhat historical, and some of you may find boring, but I think the conversation is going to be super interesting.
Somewhat?
Some people might find it boring, but I think it's super interesting.
No. It's somewhat historical. It either is or it isn't.
It depends on what we do with it, on whether or not it becomes historical or not.
The definition of something as historical is that happened in history.
Yes, it will happen in history, but we might make it of epic proportions. I don't know what we're going to do.
What you want me to do? Do an epic retelling of how somebody... Never mind.
It might, but you don't want to ruin this because we really haven't shared this with Emily, so she doesn't know what we're going to do. And
when have I ever?
Oh, there have been times you've known.
There have been
times.
Okay. However, so today, since Monday was President's Day, we're going to do a President's Day edition of the B.Andrews Radio Show podcast. So this is a time we're going to take a break, go out, get you something to drink, and come back because we're going to talk about our favorite presidents for President Day here on the B.Andrews Radio Show. So get something to drink and come on back. We'll be right here and talk about presidents.
I didn't know I had any of the symptoms. To the best of my knowledge, I had never had a problem before. All I did was enter the coffee shop, and the lady behind the counter said, "Morning, hun." And I looked at the glass case and saw my reflection. There it was, on my face. Smiley fascia.
Smiley fascia, or smiley face, is a condition caused by feelings of uncontrollable joy, peace, or tranquility. From the labs of Pharmaceuticals Unlimited comes depressia. Depressia is for those who are experiencing symptoms of smiley fascia or smiley face. Other symptoms may include singing, whistling, or in rare cases, skipping. Not all smiling is related to smiley fascia. Seeing others knocked down or in pain might also lead to smiling. Ask your doctor about the difference. Depressia is the first truly green drug, as we have used recycled cyanide, mercury, DDT, and a dash of sodium chloride. Using Depressia can help you lessen your carbon footprint on the planet.
Once I started taking Depressia, I felt so bad, I didn't have anything to smile about.
85% of those taking Depressia in our lab trials experienced lung failure, kidney failure, liver failure, death, and death-like symptoms. While taking Depressia, do not come into contact with sunlight or be around uplifting people, or this may hamper the depressing effects of the drug. If you continue to have uncontrollable feelings of joy, peace, and tranquility while taking Depressia, contact your doctor right away, as this might be a sign of deeper psychosis.
Depressia took the smile right off my face.
If you're struggling with smiley fascia, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's an oncoming train.
Depressia is not recommended by anyone and is not in stores. Depressia is solely a mythical product of Pharmaceuticals Unlimited and is presented by the AvLib Council. Ask your doctor about Depressia.
Welcome back to the second segment of the B.Andrews radio show. Before we get started on this segment, we want to do our shout out for the day. Our shout out for the day is to the location of Long Beach, California, as opposed to Short Beach, California. Anyway, to the folks out at Long Beach.
Stout was funnier.
Okay, Stout Beach. Somebody may think that you were trying to say South Beach, which is actually in Miami.
Stout Beach.
Not like one of these these people from the UP. Now, they say Stout Beach. I guarantee it. Okay?
Yeah, well, people down in Florida don't talk like that.
Are you making fun of my people?
They're not your people. What are you talking about?
People? What is this?
Hey, my people contact your people. Just don't make fun of them.
All right, and we do lunch? I mean,
yeah, sure, we can do lunch.
Cheese and beer.
That's lunch.
That would be lunch up here. Anyway, so hey, shout out, thank you Long Beach for listening to our show.
Yes,
and,
the beach itself is
get
listening. Over
to B.Andrews radio show group and let us know who you are out in I about said Stout Beach, out in Long Beach. Let us know who you are and that you're listening from Long Beach, California. Also, want to do a shout out to an Emily Hambrock, who happens to be up near Ogdensburg, New York. Thank you, Emily, for
no
listening.
relation.
Only by marriage.
Yes, only by marriage.
Hey, that would have been a great joke. No actual relation.
Yeah, not a blood relative there. But anyway, Emily, thanks for listening to the show. Go over to the website, or actually go over to the Facebook and post something there.
To the Facebook.
Go over to the Facebook page and let us know at B.Andrews Radio Show that you're listening. And anyone else that wants to make a comment, please do so and let us know that you're listening. And hey, if you happen to be coming through the area, take a stop at Route 73 in Plainfield. Drive on into town and go into CJ's Cafe. CJ's, it's a great place to get a cup of coffee, nice, fresh pastry goods are made there, and say, hey, we heard about your place on the B.Andrews radio show, and can't guarantee you any discounts if you say that, but I know that CJ personally will give you a smile. She'll serve you a bottomless cup of coffee. She is awesome about that. And hang out at the fireplace. It is a nice, comfy place to hang out, and they've got some couches and oversized chairs that go around the fireplace. Get you a cup of coffee, and just especially here at wintertime, warm yourself up around the fireplace at CJ's. So check out CJ's Cafe in Plainfield, Wisconsin, and grab you a cup of coffee and tell them the B.Andrews radio show sent you over there. All right, so we're talking about presidents, and our favorite presidents are the ones that we know, that we love, ones that we idolize, but not ones that we despise.
No idolization.
What is that word you just said?
Idolization? I don't think that's an actual word.
I almost thought you said isolation with a D somewhere in there.
It's possible.
I thought she was talking about idling, like, doing nothing. No,
we do not idle people.
No, idolization. Yeah, idolization, I think, is what you were to say instead of idolization.
That's what I said, idolization.
Anyway.
Is that even a word?
Presidents that we like and that we place upon a pedestal because of what they have done in the past.
I've never done that for anyone, but that's because I don't really know presidents, so...
Okay. Well, we're going to start with you. So out of the 45 presidents that we have had since the beginning of our country, out of the 45 presidents, leaders of our country, are there any ones that you would say, oh, man, that guy really captures my imagination, or his character... Really? See? Epic. I told you we're going to make this epic. So that's what we're going to talk about in this segment. Emily, we are turning to you. Inform us of what you think about presidents. I mean, you already said you don't know any, which totally blows me out of the water
I can list
as a history teacher for you.
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Van Buren, the guy named Taft, was Turner, and Hooch.
Turner. There is no President Turner.
Turner.
No Turner.
No Turner.
No Turner.
Turner.
Sorry.
You sure?
Yeah, just like Hamilton is not a president.
No, he's not. I know he's not.
Oh, do you know how many people do not realize that Hamilton was not president? I mean, they got this big Broadway play about Hamilton now, and you go and see it, but there's still a lot of people that think that Hamilton is a president.
That's not right.
That was shocking a lot of people. Hamilton is not a president?
No, George Washington was.
Nope.
Actually, no, he wasn't until later in Hamilton's history. Never mind.
Actually, I think one of the Adams...
2 Bushes, Obama, and a Trump. Ha! I win.
What about the Kennedys?
And a partridge and a pear tree.
Theodore Roosevelt.
What about
and
Garfield?
Kennedy and Garfield? Like, I can name like last names and stuff, but if you're gonna ask me like stuff about them, like
stuff,
like you're gonna have to give me a specific name and be like, "What do you think of this person?" I'm like, gonna be like, "Well, this."
Has there ever been a president that you've read after and you went, "Man, that guy has character"?
Actually, now that you actually mentioned his name, I do like Theodore Roosevelt because
thank you. Like
I do like Theodore Roosevelt.
What about Teddy that you really like?
He inspired teddy bears, and he was an amazing hunter, which makes me laugh.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what the name of the group was that he ran with?
Hunters.
They were hunters, but he went out west and he checked out the West. He was part of a pioneering expedition in the West to see what the land was like and all that other kind of stuff.
Does not surprise me.
He is the beginning of U.S. conservation movement. So he set off a lot of land for parks, national parks, and things like that. In fact, when we were in North Dakota, that one particular area that we went past, and I wanted to check it out the couple of times that we went there, was called the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. That was out there in North Dakota.
That
there
place?
Yeah, North Dakota.
that place,
That place right there. Yeah. I can tell you it's up Route 81. Okay, so
how many environmentalists and vegans and vegetarians and save the animal people we going to?
I said conservationist. I didn't say an environmentalist.
I know, but how many are you going to think are going to go wild when they find out that Theodore Roosevelt, the hunter, is the one who set up those parks?
I don't know.
I don't know what they would think about that.
No, but
conservation back then totally different to what. Again, back then the word was conservationist because to conserve and to protect wild lands. Now it has gone to, like you said, what was the first word you rattled off? Environmentalist. Now that's a whole different kind of. That's a
mental conversation.
That's a whole different kind of thing.
An interesting fact about Roosevelt is he was actually shot here in Milwaukee getting ready to give a speech.
We are not in Milwaukee.
No, we're not.
You said here in Milwaukee. We are not
here
in Milwaukee.
the state where Milwaukee
but we
resides.
Might be.
By the way, he was a Republican. Okay,
but that's not important.
Yes,
anyway,
it is. That's why he was in Milwaukee, because Wisconsin is the birthplace of the Republican Party. So the convention was being held here.
All right, another fun fact. But my fun fact is that he was shot just before he came out to give his speech.
That's fun.
And he came out and he was giving the speech and he goes, "It's going to take a lot more than just a bullet to take down a bull moose." And he lived with that bullet inside of him for like almost 10 years before he died. So,
dude,
did he call himself a bull moose?
Yes, he did. We used to have presidents.
See, this is why I like him even more.
Yeah, right?
We had epic presidents. I mean, they were men. Yeah, you shot me? Sorry, dude. It's going to take more than that.
I will never die.
Sounds like Roosevelt could have been a Hamburger.
Yeah, looks like one. He's got a big square head on him. So
and that marvelous mustache.
Yeah, yes, he does.
One of the things that characterized him, and a monocle.
Yes.
Actually, he wore the two over him, not a monocle. So he had.
So he wore the glasses.
So glasses.
Yeah,
he wore two monocles. You mean glasses?
Back then they didn't have the arms on them. They would drop down, and he'd pick them up when you readers and set them on the end of your nose, and then when you're done, they had a little chain.
Here, I thought he just had two monocles that he had to stick in his.
Can you imagine if they were different prescriptions and they got them crossed?
That gives a whole new meaning to cross-eyed.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. He had a Teddy Roosevelt. Of course, Teddy and the teddy bear was named after him because he would go out bear hunting.
Question: didn't he ride a moose?
Yeah, they have a picture of it. It's swimming across the lake.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's what I remember.
That was awesome. He's the
man.
By the way, the group that he ran with were called the Rough Riders.
Hey!
And out west, shot a lot of buffalo. He was part of the group that hunted buffalo into extinction.
Well,
so
okay, that's one mark against.
So there you go for conservation.
Wait, so being shot's not a mark against him?
No, because he survived for 10 years after that.
With a bullet in him.
Yeah.
So
why? That's not a mark. Why would that be a mark against him?
Because he got shot.
But he lived.
Okay.
Dodged it.
Famous saying. Here you go.
You dodge a bullet.
All right, children. Famous saying from Teddy Roosevelt goes like this: "Walk softly
and carry a big stick."
That was him.
I thought it was speak softly.
No, it's walk softly.
Maybe
it is speak softly.
We're just going to tiptoe
Speak
around
softly,
now.
but carry a big stick. So anyway, that was
that way. There's weight behind your words.
Hey man,
whack, whack, this whack
again, whack.
Yeah. So, and he didn't mind using the big stick. So,
well, when you have it. Sometimes you got to use it.
Well, you know what?
Right.
I think Trump could use a big stick.
Oh, Trump has his stick.
I mean physically a big stick. He is getting old. He can't get out of the chair as much anymore. Just, like reach across the table with the big stick.
What?
That'd be funny. We start watching, videos or whatever. And today in the White House news, Trump shows up at the table with a big stick.
No, just give him the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the audience
that's a personal joke.
That's a personal joke, audience.
Not like an inappropriate personal joke. That's just like a personal joke.
Yes.
Well, no, it's not.
All
joke.
those that
It's
have sat
truth.
at the Hambrock dinner table will understand that joke. All right.
Your
not a
father
joke.
started laughing at me when he licked off the spoon after I said something and I thought I was in trouble. He, like, it was just good timing and he did it and I ducked and he just started laughing his butt off at me. And I'm like, shut up.
It's true. We all of a sudden flinch because it's like, oh, are we in trouble? And all of a sudden he just starts laughing because it's like, I'm sorry. We thought we were in trouble.
Yeah, because Grandma asked me to do something, and I said, hang on, because I was trying to swallow what was in my mouth, because I was trying to eat, because I was really hungry. And I said, hold on. At the same time, he licked off his spoon. Menacingly, by the way, the same rate of speed you do. He turns it upside down in his mouth and, like, pulls it out real slow. And, like, lifted it up, and I was like, and he just started laughing at me, because he was actually going for the cake in the middle of the table.
Not you.
Right. Not you. You.
Yeah. Okay, Kay, you're up.
What? I like Washington. I like to go for the first. He's a good guy.
He's a trendsetter.
I got a question for you. Isn't he a little too old for you?
He was president before it was cool.
And besides, I mean, George has a Martha. So
yes, George and Martha. I'm not even go there. But
Martha.
Yeah.
If there's more people than just your mother that's named Martha.
So okay, enlighten us. You like George Washington? What about him is
appealing?
Well, there's the wig.
There's the wooden teeth.
Yeah, there's that.
Wooden teeth?
He had his teeth removed, and his set of dentures were made out of wood.
Yeah.
That seems dangerous.
Well, only if you get splinters in your tongue.
Oh, I bet my cheek. You're gonna look at this.
No, I think what's that word? Audiobook.
I couldn't help you even if
No,
I
I
tried.
had no idea what was meandering through your cerebrum on that one.
Wait. Stick your head to the microphone. See if
maybe
we can hear
what
my
you're
thoughts.
thinking. Yeah.
Can you hear my thoughts now?
I can, and you should be ashamed. No.
I don't know what you're hearing, but okay.
Sorry, that was me.
All right, no, but we didn't read. We listened to.
We heard. That sounds worse. We heard.
We listened to an audiobook going back and forth from Kentucky last summer, when Dad was doing my grandma's bathroom. So we got to.
Now we know that relationship.
So we got to hear. About George Washington and the different historical points in his life that he had to push against, and hearing his character and seeing it always shine through in the historical things. They're not prophecies. Help me.
Wow.
Stories?
The stories, recording, historical records.
That's it. The historical records
are not
going through them.
prophecies. They're not prophecies, but they're
Read the prophecies.
true. What are they? Wow. Okay,
Wow.
the historical records.
Yes, the historical records, and then putting it into book form. I really enjoyed listening to it and hearing the things that he had to go through and how his character is just really appealing.
Okay. Did I make that sound? Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the club.
Yeah, his character, he really took seriously about being the first guy and giving birth to a country. And
Must have been hard labor.
Yeah.
He did what he did. I know you're making a joke, but one of the things
But it's still very true.
Yeah.
he fought a war besides some people, watched a lot of people lose their lives in order to secede from a king. When he was elected president, and by the way, in the first presidential election, do you know there were somewhere between 9 and 15 guys elected president in the first presidential election? And
After?
each one of them declared that they were president of the United States. So what happened is we didn't have the election design that we have today, and so a region went together and had a candidate, and they threw an election for that candidate in that particular region, Then the guy that won between the different candidates from that region, and that region thought because the country wasn't unified, we're coming from being colonies to being, so that group of people had their runoff, and so that guy was their president. Because that was who they elected from their region, and so there's our president. There were about, I can't remember, it's either 9 or 15 of those different situations happening, and so one of the first things that had to happen was they had to be unified on who would take that presidency. And since he was already general and was in an election that did win in and around the capital area, they went ahead and established him as being president of the United States. So here he watched people bleed, die, fight alongside of him to secede from a king. And one of the first things that they started doing when people didn't like the policies that he had formed, they started calling him King George.
Yeah, and
you talk about a cutting remark.
That's such an insult. But back to the idea of more than 15 presidents. Do you think that's that could have been like the first idea for like a representative from like a state?
They probably reformed it.
Yes, we didn't have. So far, we're under the Articles of what are they called? The Articles of Confederation. Not Confederation.
That article, not of clothing.
I can't. But it wasn't. We had
or headlines
because our Constitution isn't formed. They take these articles and they eventually throw them out, and we don't get our Constitution until 1887.
Yeah,
that's when the Constitution comes in, because they said our articles are like these aren't working. They're not working. So the producer is saying we're running long. So you know what you do when you run long?
Beach.
Yeah,
like the beach.
Hi, Long Beach.
Wait a minute. Do you like the beach?
I don't know.
Story time some other time.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Go get a refill on your beverage and come on back, because we're talking presidents. Oh, and in this next segment, we're going to get really creepy.
Hey, if you want to be a part of the show, connect with us on Twitter at B.Andrews Band, all lowercase, B-A-N-D-R-E-W-S, B-A-N-D, or IM us at Facebook by going to B.Andrews. That's first name B, B-E, last name Andrews, A-N-D-R-E-W-S.
You're listening to the B.Andrews Radio Show.
Welcome back to the third segment of the B.Andrews Radio Show, the President's Day edition of the B.Andrews Radio Show. And wow, I can see your nails all the way from over here.
They're shiny, ain't they?
Yeah, that's some serious bling.
Well, you know what? I had to do it to match my costume.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Because like my character is just kind of dripping in gold.
I see. All right. Getting back to the subject matter at hand, we're talking presidents here and presidential history for President's Day edition of the B.Andrews Radio Show. Emily picked off Theodore Roosevelt.
It made me sound like a vulture.
What was that noise?
I don't know.
Emily the vulture.
It was a sick vulture.
We're your friends.
Yeah. She picked off Theodore Roosevelt as her pick for
was there more than one Roosevelt that was
FDR.
Yeah, so
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Kay picked off Mr.
An oldie but goodie.
Mr. Washington because of character and getting us started.
First of all, that's originality. That's not oldie but goodie. That's originality.
Hey, he's
old.
He set the precedence for our country. I am a Jefferson. I'm a Jeffersonian myself. Thomas Jefferson. By the way,
I knew you were old, but
I didn't know you were that old.
By the way, Washington's mansion. Name.
I don't know.
Mount Vernon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Washington was
Vernon.
Washington was at Mount Vernon.
What is George Washington's middle name? I forget.
I don't know that I knew George Washington.
Freedom.
Yeah, I'll take it. I would totally believe it if somebody said that.
Whoa.
George Freedom Washington.
I would totally believe that if somebody actually legit
By the way, you can live in George Washington.
Yes. I'm not sure if most people know that, but out in the state of Washington, there is a city called
George.
So
or if you're Spanish, Jorge
Washington. So anyway, Jefferson. And Jefferson, because between him and Adams and Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, letters that they had written and talked back and forth with each other, they developed the idea for the Constitution over months and months and months, and what a government should really look like. And so that's the reason why that they threw out the old articles that they had and were running with, and ended up adopting a second constitutional Congress and adopting a new constitution for the United States of America. And they really put themselves out there. By the way, his mansion is called Monticello. Jefferson is also an inventor of sorts. This thing circular that you put on your table, you set it in the center of the table, and you can spin it around in a circle, right, and serve different people from the table. It's called a lazy Susan. He invented that.
Why is it Susan that's lazy?
Excellent question. Have no idea.
He named it after his third child.
Yeah.
Lazy Susan.
Also,
no, I think that would be his wife's younger sister.
Also, he was such a prolific letter writer, but he always wanted a copy of the letters that he would send. He developed a system to where he would write with a quill pen, and he could dip a secondary quill pen on a secondary piece of paper, and as he wrote over here, it would write over here and match his writing. He was the first to do a duplication system for letter writing.
Oh, that's really cool.
And there are other things that Jefferson had invented, but the idea, I mean, a deep thinker. He was an ambassador to France before Benjamin Franklin was, and while he was our ambassador to France, that's where he was learning about the other governments over in Europe and writing back his ideas, coming back over to the United States. But while he was over there, he got involved in winemaking. And there is actually Thomas Jefferson bottled wine that is still floating around in Europe. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this. You can look it up on YouTube or whatever. But the last bottle that's sold, it's not worth drinking. But because it has his seal on it of wine that he made, I think the last bottle that actually sold was over $2 million.
Oh, wow.
Because of the historical.
So it's
it'd be no good for drinking because it would be completely.
It's getting too old.
It's too old, yeah.
It's too old.
Fine wine's finally too old.
You do want wine to age, but there does come a point in time where it starts getting to be too old. And
I'm pretty sure, like over about 200 years is
just pushing it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. So different things about Thomas Jefferson. He never. I mean, this is a guy that used his money, used his brain, and he really pushed the envelope well, in always trying to make culture and society better. One of those things that he did, and I will end with this. He took to wife with him a slave. Her name was Sally Henning. And a little bit of connection here in Wisconsin. He had 3 children by her. He set his slaves free and gave them his mansion to live in when he died. One of those children, Sally Henning's children, is buried in here in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, finally history from Wisconsin.
Yeah, there you go. So
he finally tied it in
down towards Madison. So here's some creepy facts, though. Are you guys ready for this? We're going to talk about the protecting our presidents and how many of them have actually been killed in office. Does anybody know how many presidents were killed in office?
I'm going to guess somewhere between 8 and 11.
Whoa, that's high. We have done a terrible job protecting our presidents.
Well, you know what? Early days.
Yeah.
Early days.
All right. Well,
the actual answer is Kay.
She's got to look it up.
I'm telling you, I can read her lips. 1,
I was just making sure. Only 4 have actually died. There have been multiple assassination attempts, but there are only 4 who actually died.
From assassination, there is one gentleman who ran for president who died in office from natural causes.
3?
No.
Oh,
not you.
Right. Never mind. Yeah, me. I'm the one that pushes the button.
So, tell us about these guys.
All right. Abraham Lincoln.
Was he the first president actually assassinated?
Yes.
Ooh.
All right. So, Abraham Lincoln. The assassination of President Lincoln took place on Good Friday, April 14th, 1865 at Ford Theater in Washington, D.C.
But he didn't actually die on Good Friday.
At approximately 10:15, John Wilkes Booth was a well-known actor and Confederate sympathizer for Maryland. Though he never joined the Confederate Army, he had contacts with the Confederate Secret Service. In 1864, Booth formulated a plan very similar to the one Thomas N. Conrad previously authorized by the Confederacy to kidnap Lincoln in exchange for the release of Confederate prisoners. After attending on April 11, 1865 speech in which Lincoln promoted voting rights for blacks and sorry, the mic's in the way. I'm going to have to go over. My eyes are really bad. All right. Blacks and incensed Booth changed his plans and became determined to assassinate the president. Learning that the president would be attending Ford's Theater, Booth formulated a plan with co-conspirators to assassinate Lincoln at the theater, as well as Vice President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William H. Seward at their homes. Lincoln attended the play Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater as the president sat in his state box in the balcony watching the play with his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, and 2 guests, Major Henry Rathbone and his fiancée, Clara Harris. Booth entered from behind, aimed a .44 caliber Derringer pistol at the back of Lincoln's head, and fired mortally wounding the president. Rathbone momentarily grappled with Booth, but Booth stabbed him and escaped. The unconscious president was carried across the street from the theater at the Peterson House. I'm pretty sure. All right. Where he remained in a coma for 9 hours before dying the following morning at 7:22 a.m. on April 15th. Beyond Lincoln's death, the plot failed. Seward was only wounded, and Johnson's would-be attacker lost his nerve. After being on the run for 12 days, Booth was tracked down and found on April 26, 1865, by Union soldiers on the farm in Virginia, some 70 miles south of Washington. After refusing to surrender the Union troops, Booth was shot and killed by Sergeant Boston Corbett. Several other conspirators were later hanged.
And Mr. Corbett said that an angel told him to do it.
Well, I think it's interesting that even back then, the president was trying to go for black rights to allow them to even vote as regular people. Mm-hmm. And yet people want to go after him and others for owning slaves when, no, there was just so many people in opposition. It's not that everybody thought that way. It's that, it was such a big change and that there was just a lot of radicalness to go along with it that people didn't like the big change.
Couple of things out of this of note. A notable quote. Number 1, Stanton, who was the Secretary of War. They didn't have Secretary of Defense back then. It was Secretary of War. Stanton was sitting beside his bed when he passed away. They declared him dead, and the statement was made, "Now he belongs to the ages." So that's where that statement comes from. Something else of note, you said Mary Todd Lincoln, his wife, distant relative.
Yeah, we're actually related
by
to
marriage
her.
To the Todds from Illinois. My grandmother, there was a relationship there, so rather interesting. So that's number 1. The first guy down was shot and killed. Second president.
The second president was James A. Garfield. So, interesting fact with him. The assassination of President Garfield took place in Washington, D.C. at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, July 2nd, 1881. Less than 4 months after he took office, Charles J., can't pronounce his last name, shot him twice.
What a last name!
Charles J. can't pronounce his last name. Shot him twice.
Once in his right arm and once in his back with a 442 Webley British Bulldog revolver. As the president was arriving at the Baltimore and how do you say that again? The Potomac. It's a river. Potomac Railway
Washington,
Station.
D.C.
Garfield died 11 weeks later on September 19th, 1881 at 10:35 p.m. of complications caused by infection. Charles was immediately arrested after a highly publicized trial lasting from November 14th, 1881 to January 25th, 1882. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. A subsequent appeal was rejected and he was executed by hanging on June 30th, 1882. In the District of Columbia, 2 days before the first anniversary of the attempt, Charles was assessed during his trial as mentally unbalanced and possibly suffering from some kind of bipolar disorder or from effects of syphilis on the brain. He claimed to have shot Garfield out of disappointment for being passed over for the appointment of as ambassador to France. He attributed the president's victory in election to a speech he wrote in support of Garfield.
So that seems like a bit of a bipolar. If he like supported him, but then was mad about something he did, that seems like a bit like there is something a bit extreme going on there.
Not necessarily for back then. I think that's reading modern day into it. I think he was mad. He was passed over, and it's like, well, then I did that for you. I helped you get elected, so you don't deserve to be president.
It's still an extreme emotion.
And as two other fun facts, since we don't have enough time to finish the rest of the stories, William McKinley was the third president to die in assassination, and the very last president to actually be assassinated was John F. Kennedy.
Now, we have had assassination attempts since then.
Lots of assassination attempts.
Ronald Reagan, there was an assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. He was actually shot. There's considered to be an assassination attempt. They consider it as an assassination attempt on President Obama because somebody fired at the White House, but he was not there. The family was not there at the time, thank goodness. That would have just been, needless tragedies. I think not only the president, what if one of his daughters, somebody was just walking through the hallway and caught a random bullet? That's just crazy, people. Crazy. So this assassination business is terrible. So anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and lighten it up just a little bit. Those were historic facts, and then we're going to present to you a little good news.
Well, it's time for a little good news, and let the sun shine through for me and you with some good news.
Today's good news story comes from Canoe.com. 12-year-old saves grandfather who suffers stroke while driving. Southborough, Massachusetts. A 71-year-old Massachusetts man is recovering from a stroke he suffered while driving on a major highway. Doctor says he has his 12-year-old grandson to thank. Benjamin, a 7th grader from Canton, was on his way to soccer practice on Tuesday on Interstate 495 when his grandfather, Boris, suddenly stopped talking. Benjamin says he knew something was wrong, so he grabbed the steering wheel to avoid crashing and guided the car to the side of the highway while simultaneously calling 911. An ambulance arrived to take his grandpa to the Memorial Medical Center in Worcester, where he was treated by Dr. Ajit Puri. The doctor says that Boris can move the right side of his body now and his speech is almost back to normal. He also says Benjamin is absolutely a hero. Man, that's got to be some high-stress situation right there.
Well, a funny thought. This should not be a funny story, but a funny thought went through my brain. You know how grandsons know that something's wrong with grandpa. I didn't know something's wrong with grandpa.
He stopped
talking.
I thought the kid might be afraid that he was falling asleep, but you know what? He knew to call 911, so obviously there was something else going on because he stopped talking, but he was also having trouble.
Yeah, there with stroke victims or whatever, there are things that start happening. The person will look at you, they think they're talking, nothing's happening. Arm, they'll all of a sudden not have control of the arm. One friend said his arm just started going like this. I'm raising my arm up. He didn't even know it. He'd look out the side and he'd see this, but he couldn't feel it, that his arm was just doing this and was going up. So there are different things that can happen. The immediate droop will start happening on the particular side of a face or whatever, lip droop. And so, yeah, there are other notable signs that you could possibly see. But I almost started chuckling when you're like, Grandpa stopped talking. Well, I knew there was something wrong.
Well, nothing was usually wrong when Grandpa stopped talking whenever I was down at his house. Usually you just knew that was when he was asleep.
Yeah, he'd fall asleep in the middle of a sentence.
He would.
Yeah, I know. But hey, kudos. This kid's name again?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Kudos to Benjamin. Good thinking. Way to be there, buddy, for Grandpa. And
his grandpa's name is Boris. How awesome is that?
Aww.
It's Grandpa Boris.
Does he have a secret lab in the basement?
No, Natasha.
Is that Grandma's name?
I don't know, but now I want to know.
Anyway, that's going to wrap up today's show for us. Hey, listen, keep your head. There's all kinds of situations.
Yeah, don't lose it.
Don't lose your head. Keep you cool when emergency situations happen. And you know what? Let's lift up some of these younger kids that end up doing a lot of things that are just absolutely awesome round about us. Way to go, Benjamin. And I'm sure there's other stories of other kids that do some incredible things that we never even get to hear. But that's why we want to share the ones that we do, so that you can be inspired to know that there is a future for our kids, that there's some good-hearted people out there. And so let's instruct them. And you know what? You, my listening audience, why don't you be one of those great people? That's all we have for our show today. And so we just ask that you would share it with other people. iHeartRadio, Facebook, YouTube, the B.Andrews Radio Show. What's that new one, Kay? Castbox, okay? Or on Facebook. Share it with other people. Thank you for listening in Long Beach, California. Thank you, Emily, for being one of our listeners. And hey, if you're around, stop in at CJ's Cafe and get you a cup of coffee. Tell them Eric sent you. Until next time, you guys have a great day and a blessed week, and we'll see you back here next week on the B.Andrews Radio Show.